This time I caught it in time. Hello, we are live. Hello, hello. Let's hear it now. Give me your feedback because I'm pretty sure I'm on the right mic today. Let me know. No sound. Sound. You'd think by now I would have had this figured out every time. There we go. I'm kicked in. Okay, good. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for checking with me. Good morning. I'm really excited. Today is going to be, we're coming up on the July 5th Minute launch date. And Minute launch is something that's exciting to me because it's a concept that, in my opinion, is long overdue for those of us who either have businesses that need these solutions ready in a minute or who want to be, as implementers, using them for our clients. And so for those of you who've never been here, I see a few coming in. Good morning. Good morning. What I like to do on the office hours is give you a chance to ask questions as I go. Today is going to be a real hands-on because I'm going to show you basically 3 things about a real world situation that I just had happen this week. Okay. I actually had a pretty productive week of folks who have come in and they're either going to be or prospectively going to be clients who need essentially a modern marketing automation system for their email, their client communication, wrapped up with the membership stuff and the other tools. What I have explained to all of you guys who have been here for a while is that I am the concierge. I am the dude in the yellow vest at IKEA. I am the dude in the orange vest at Home Depot who comes out to your car. And I'm going to show you how these Minute launch solutions using the stuff inside of the kit allow you for yourself or your clients to have things that keep up with all of the best platforms, except they own and control them, or you own and control them. And even with our relationship as your concierge, I am not putting you inside of a gilded cage. So the idea is that I can give you all of the answers, all of the tools, everything you need to look like a genius and be a genius for your clients or for your own business. And when I say clients, it could be the business that you run, that you have a membership site, or it could be that you're an implementer. All right, so without further ado, let me introduce you to the basic premise. What I have essentially done with the launch kit is we have created, and the Minute launch branding here, I'm gonna go to the different screen. I'm gonna walk you step by step through creating an email marketing automation using the tools, because I had at least 3 new clients this week who are all basically Gen X, really powerful businesses or implementers, and they needed the kind of solutions that I've been able to deliver over the years. But rather than me hand curating them, we're putting together into something that will be available in a minute. All right, so here's the basic premise. First of all, I want to brag and show you how you get started. I'm using a demo site creator called ZipWP just to demonstrate how ridiculously easy things can be when you get everything delivered from Spence over here at WP Launchify in the kit. And you can use this for all of your clients on any hosting, but I'm also going to show you here, this is a ready to go version of it with the host that we include in the kit. All right, so number 1 is, let's go to ZipWP just to prove that this is so ridiculously easy in under a minute. Let's first of all create a new site. And I'm going to call this Launch Kit 2. The ZipWP is very similar to any of these other tools like InstaWP and so forth that allow you to essentially play with all the things you want, demonstrate them to a client, even sell them. We make ready to go versions of this for you to use, so you don't even need hosting, which is awesome. But the idea is, why bother like doing a million steps? So I've created a new site. Now watch how easy this is. This is the new site here. And I'm going to do 2 things. First of all, I want to explain to you that Launch Kit will be available as a plugin in the repository. So you don't even need to have the upload of the plugin. You will be able to say Launch Kit, and the thing I'm about to show you will be available here. Do not do this one. This is the old version 1, but I just want you to understand, as soon as I update it, this will be available to install right from any hosting you have. Okay, I'm going to upload my current version 2 of this real quick, just so that we can show you what's going to be there shortly. And I don't know if it'd be fun. It might be fun. It might be fun to set a timer on this thing. And I don't mind really doing this, but like I want to just prove how ridiculously simple this is. So online stopwatch. I know I'm going to be talking, so it's not going to be like legitimately, let's do stopwatch. Okay. So let's just see how long this takes, even with me talking. I'm going to go to this new site and I'm going to go to LaunchKit. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to set the basic options. You can turn all of these on. I'll explain them more in a second, but these are what give you an optimal administrative experience, including things like hiding notices and preventing the plugins from doing weird things when you turn them on. Number two is you're going to log in with your WP Launchify membership account. This could be a free account when you sign up to our list, or it could be a paid membership account that you have LaunchKit or LaunchKit software so that you can do any of these minute launches from what I'll show you as a package. Step three, I like to use the Cadence theme, but you can add to it, as many people have asked me this week. You can use additional page builders or other themes, but this is a way to keep standard with everything we do. Next, what I like to do is install all of the plugins in this kit. Look at how fast this installs. There is, I think, 88 plugins right now. They are not turned on. They are just installed. And the reason that's important is because then I'm going to use the Prime Mover and I'm going to install a package. But just let's stop the thing right now and go stop. Okay, 1 minute and 14 seconds. And I've essentially got a fully operational site that is ready to go with all the components in the fridge to do like, do you guys know those game shows where they have like the Iron Chef or whatever, and everybody has the same ingredients, or the Great British Bake Off? They've got all the same ingredients and they're told, make a cream puff, make a beef Wellington, or make whatever recipe you want. The concept is the same here. If I give you all of the tools, and what I'm going to show you next is the package, you can get started in seconds. And this includes for any of these minute launches. So my minute launches are going to essentially be 2, 3, 4-step recipes that have links to any further details you need, but that will have packages associated with them, so you can install the packages. And what's neat about the packages is that the packages could be local or they could be remote. So if I was to go back over here and look at what I've got on this, let's make sure I don't mix up the two sites. I got Perpetual Ballerina and I've got Laughable Lagour. If I go over here and I look at the plugins that were just installed, I have 80 plugins all ready to turn on, and I could just as easily turn them on and use them following any of the basic recipes. So rather than forcing you to have things pre-mixed, the default operation is everything is here ready to go. And you could do any of the things you normally like to do. But the real trick is if we go over here, for example, if I were to examine the packages that are available, I can browse things that are ready to go that have, let's say, all of the things set up. So in other words, like the WooCommerce checkout experience is set up, the Fluent CRM is set up, the automations for what I'm going to show you today are set up. And there, yeah. And so the great question, is there a podcast plugin in there as well for sharing to multiple podcast sites? Of course. The beauty of using WordPress is two things. Number one, it is here's my $5 word. It's the most ubiquitous, the most popular platform in the world. So there is literally a piece of software for everything. If there is anything that you need to do, one of the things about our relationship, which is so awesome, is you say, part of your package is, hey, Spence, what is it that I can do for X? Like I need to do a podcast. I will either acquire the plugin and give it to you individually, or I will put it into the kit so that it is available to you along with all the other things to be easily managed. And one of the other things about that that's so neat is this is white label. So if you build it for clients, the launch kit doesn't have to show up in the menu. It can be literally hidden. That's one of the settings right here, excuse me. If I click this button and say save changes, watch, launch kit disappears. But you can always get to it here through page equals WPLK. So if we add something that you have as a great suggestion to the kit, I can make sure that it always works properly. I can document it. I can build it into a package. I can give you the instructions. I can be of service. And we can ensure that it doesn't do the thing that unfortunately most of my clients have experienced, which is having this Frankenstein monster problem. So at WP Launchify, many of you have seen me talk about this. I've got this problem that most people have. They look like, Spence, where have you been all my life? Because I've either got a Frankenstein monster or shiny ball syndrome. And this can include, by the way, externalities, right? This can include, well, we're trying to connect to an outside podcast service or an outside CRM or something else. All right. So as a base starting point, installing one of these packages is as simple as just clicking and uploading, and or using your, if you sell these yourself, creating a package and then selling the link to that from your own website, hopefully built with the very same tools. And when you do that, you end up with, for yourself or your clients, any number of packages ready to restore. Now, I'm going to actually work on this site here, which is ready to go. So I'm going to show you what happens, and then we'll move on to the actual thing. When you want to install, you just click restore a package, you say yes, and it takes the information that's basically like a snapshot of what you had previously built. And as you can hopefully see here, it starts to restore it. And what's neat about this is it doesn't have to worry about all the plugins because you've got the latest plugins through the other part of the kit. It doesn't have to worry about all the other possible things that you might have to set up because they're baked into it, either from what we've given you, other people in our community have sold or given, or you've made yourself using the very same tools. So we're going to let that sort of bake like a good cooking show. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the end here, and I'm going to talk about the email thing. So here's the real world situation. Let me set this up. One of the clients that I met has a moving business, and they've been in business for 25 plus years. This is the Gen X story. So any of my audience members who are a little younger, you could take a nap. No, but I think there's a lesson to be learned. I joke with everybody about how I still use, like, even you guys who I can see are here, you know, how I still use a computer to keep track. Well, this was a client who essentially has a moving business that does an amazing job up here in the Chicagoland area. But their process for me hiring them as movers was two things. It was incredibly personal, incredibly concierge. I fell in love with how comfortable I felt that they talked to me. They heard my thoughts, my feelings, my worries, my concerns. They interacted with me. Whereas 3 or 4 other companies that were different types did not. They had all, the newer companies had all the right tools, but I felt like I was just a stranger or a number. I felt unsure, uneasy. Like, is this thing going to happen or not? And this is really important because I've lived in this house for 10 years and I'm moving to a new house, and it's a big deal because, you know, with my back injury from the biking and all the other stuff. So they made me feel great, but it occurred to me that their processes were ridiculous. They didn't do the basic things that one needs to do when you have clients, whether they're real world clients for a moving business or whether they're an online membership site client, whether they go to events, whether they go to one-on-one consultations. Everybody needs the same basic things. So let's talk about what those are. And this is why I came up with this. I essentially use the kit to show them which things could be different. And in doing so, I get double benefit. Number one is that I can demonstrate for you guys the things that work in a real world situation, and I'll be able to deliver to you all of these really cool components. The sales funnel, the products, the marketing email templates, the automations. I can bake these into the minute launch recipe, you see? Because since you guys all, like IKEA, have the same ingredients, you're all going to have the same stuff under the hood. If I make the recipe using those ingredients, you can use them, you can benefit from them, you can sell them, you can modify them and make them your own. Really awesome, right? Okay, so let's start with the basics. Number one, in the pre-baked version of what I was, you know, cooking here under the hood that's self-installing. And by the way, it goes much faster on when you're using our setup. Like, I can launch a new site in about 30 seconds. It takes a while because ZipWP are just demo sites. They have like 1 megabyte of memory and it just sort of processes as slow. But when you normally launch from a normal server like Rocket, a minute, minute and a half. Okay, so here's the setup. Number one, the first thing we have is we need a way to take on new customers. So any automation means that the customers have had to give you their email. This is metaphorically the fishbowl that in the old days a business would put on the countertop, right? So what we need there is a form, and we've included in here Fluent Forms. If you're familiar with Gravity Forms or something else, there's nothing about what I'm saying that says you cannot use those. But if you use the other tools, you're sort of cheating yourself of the things that are already built into the recipe and the packages. Plus, I'm the one who's giving you all the software for no extra cost, and I'm helping you to make sure that if there's any questions, we immediately know why, because we're all using the same things. So there's two types of registering people. One is for somebody who is a cold lead. This is what I would call somebody you don't know whether you're going to go to lunch with yet, versus a warm prospect. That's somebody who you've, oh my God, hit it off with, and you know for sure you're going to offer them something, they're going to buy something. That warm prospect is different because a cold lead, we only need to add them into the database of the CRM for emails. But a warm prospect, we want to add away from the register, login, and we could start giving them things immediately. And it doesn't really make a difference with the system if you just use the registration and login, but I want you to be clear, there's differences, right? So if we look at the form, again, I'm in 1080p, so hopefully this is clear. I would not usually add all of this stuff, first name, last name, email, subject. I would probably say you could leave off subject and you could just say message. Or you could just say, for example, here's something I'm going to give you, and I'm just needing your first name and email. An example of that is at, let's say, spencerforman.com, right? First name and email is all I need because I'm promising to put you on my newsletter list. Whereas if I'm saying I'm going to ask you for information or you need to ask me a question, maybe I want first name, last name, email, and message. This kind of form is going to add somebody to the CRM, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is enough to get them going. And in this case, using the mover as an example, somebody may have come from an inquiry on a particular ad or whatever. So we can also use what's called hidden fields if we want. And I won't complicate that too much here, but you see all these amazing options that we have inside of Fluent Forms. One of the things that we can do is to take in the URL that somebody came from, right? So I will show you, for example, one could put this in here and program this to be pre-configured. I'm not going to bother with this too much, but just to show you how this would do. You could, first of all, make this hidden. And second of all, you can go ahead and set up the configurations of what else is filling it in. And the default value here can come from, for example, IP address of the person, embedded URL, referral URL, right? And so if I wanted to do it like this, I can actually know that somebody came from a particular Facebook ad or another link on my site, or it could even come from, let's say, something internally in my automation. So hi, Chai. So you're making a distinction between cold lead list and the Fluent CRM. Yeah. So what I'm going to show you now is where does this form lead to? So you're right on the same page. The form I'm just designating is a difference between whether we're just going to add them to the CRM only, or where they're going to put them into the, we're going to put them in as a registered user as well. So let me show you that. So now let me just get rid of this extra thing. Now that I've got this, I've got a contact form that would only go to the CRM, and I've got another form that could be used for registration. And let me just show you this because it's important to note the difference. With the registration one, I have a few extra fields in here that will be set up under integrations. This is for somebody who is not quite ready to buy a product, but I do want them to be registered and logged in. So you'll notice a couple things. When I confirm what happens after they give their information, I take them to a page, which is the My Account page inside of the site. And the second thing I do is I configure the integration with the Fluent Forms user registration. And in doing that, we can see that I can take their email and map it to the new account email. I can make their username into their email, or if I wanted, it could be first name, last name. and I say auto-generate a password, make them a subscriber, allow the user, this is important, allow the user to log in automatically, and do not submit it if they've already done it. Okay, so the reason that this is useful, and I'm going to show you this in action, is that this allows me to do two things. First, they're going to be added to the CRM, but second of all, they're going to be also registered and logged in as a user. The other thing that's neat about this is I can embed it on various pages, but I can also enable this really awesome landing page module. And I can further customize if I want to make this attractive. So let me do that, for example. I could take it and I can put a label above it or something that lets people know what's happening, right? So if I just do something like this and I go, I wouldn't really say that, but let's just say, so you understand what I'm saying, register now and log in. Okay. That's going to show up inside of that form, which is making this very easy because this link can be used in any kind of social media. For many of you guys, I've actually talked about how I like to integrate with design tools like Canva. So now I just have a simple link that, notice the link here. It's the name of the website / landing page. And I can use a nice name on that instead. But if somebody uses this, this is a link that I can just put into Canva, into YouTube, into TikTok, into an email. And let's do a test. Tom@jones.com, Tom Jones. 3 things should happen. Tom will register and log in. He'll be taken to the My Account area, and Tom will be added to the CRM. Now, in order to make this work, I have to do something though. I have to actually, I'm going to share another screen or log out. Let's see which one I want to do. Let's do, I wonder if I can do incognito here without losing the screen that I'm sharing with you. So let me make a new incognito window. That way I can bounce back and forth. I'm going to present this new incognito window. Okay, so now I'm going to use that landing page incognito so we can see Tom's registration and log in. So Tom@jones.com, Tom Jones. And the reason this is important, like the fishbowl in the old days, is that this allows the site owner, did you see how fast that was, by the way? This allows the site owner to immediately know who's interested in the business, because Tom and wherever he came from, and if I had collected the URL, all that stuff would be in the database. But I can also give Tom the experience of taking him or her to wherever I want them to go. In this case, this dashboard, I might customize with a message that says, hey, Tom, thanks for joining on the blankety blank TikTok video. And here's the thing you were looking for. Okay. So now that Tom is logged in, and you can see he can do any number of different things to modify his account and his profile and upload his new image and stuff. Let's get rid of Tom and go back to the other screen, because that's going to show what happens on the back end. Let's do this one. Okay, so now we're back over here. Back over here. I have too many windows open. My apologies. I'm back over here. And let's go to the back end of the site to see what happens inside the dashboard for the owner of the site, who's now got Tom registered and logged in. So a couple things. First of all, if we go right over here to the Fluent CRM, and we can move this up to the top if it's easier, which is what I sometimes do, we'll see that there should be a new contact in here who is registered for the database and been added to the mailing list. I think I'm on the wrong website, so hold on one second. The difficulty of using too many things at once. Let's go into this CRM. And I'm going to close this one down or move it over so I don't get mixed up again. not sure what happened. Let's double check. There might be one thing that I didn't set up, which I should have, which was to activate the two-factor authentication. So let's just double check. If we look over here and we see the user registration, we see the entry. And one of the things that I should have mentioned or should have set up is that we have the capability of doing two-factor or double opt-in, which means that the person does not get added to the CRM unless or until you approve them, or unless or until they click on their own email. So let's take a look at the actual entry, because I think that's what happened here. And so we see Tom Jones is in here, but you'll notice that they have not been approved yet. The status is in read-only mode. So the way we can do is we can change their status to approve him and add him into there, or we can just remove from what I should have done originally, my bad, the two-factor or the double authentication. So let me show you where that is real quick. Inside of the settings here, by default, I keep saying two-factor, it's double opt-in, okay? So make sure that when you set this up, if you want them to be registered and logged in and added to the CRM, that's also properly set up. Second of all is there's another integration here, which you don't normally need, but I'm going to show it to you. That is the Fluent CRM. This allows us to make sure that the person, for sure, no matter how they come in, is added to the CRM as well. So I'm just going to map the fields. And if we want, we can also give them a tag, right? So when they are added to the CRM. And with this combination of stuff, everything should work properly. So we can just give it a real quick try again. I won't do it this time on an incognito. I'll just do it here. bob@jones.com, Bob Jones. And so, here's the Bob Jones that's logged in. And then we should also have in the Fluent CRM, the person will be added. And here's Bob Jones. Okay. And so we see now a couple things that are useful. First of all, Bob has the tag. We also can see that the form that Bob used is here, and the date and what he did and everything else. So this is the beginning of the funnel. So I want to take a quick pause to just review what we've got. Number one, we need some way to bring somebody in. If we know that they're not ready or warm enough to maybe consider buying, we can just put them in the CRM only. The reason, by the way, that I don't just leave people as in the forms is because otherwise we just have a list of entries. Putting them in the CRM costs nothing in this case, because Fluent CRM is like a no cost to grow a list to 1 million people. If we think they're close, I like to register and log them in, because when they are registered and logged in, that is how and why we can track their behavior with tags. It's really only practical if they're registered and logged in. And we can also use that as a way to give them offers, because if we know more about them, it's very easy to say, hey, Spence, we know you're logged in. I want to ask you a question, like, do you like yellow or blue? And in doing so, that might allow us to further curate the things that would draw favor with that particular visitor. All right. And what we did is made it, make sure that you check your settings for A, that there's not a requirement of somebody to first double opt in, and B, make sure you just have the integration mapped to the CRM so that the person will end up in there if you want it. Okay, now that we've got them in there, the question becomes, what do we do for the emails? And this was a question that came up because the emails themselves that my client was sending, there was nothing wrong with them, but the format was very 1995. It had lots of graphics. The type was like blue letters on blue background. I didn't really know when they sent it to me that there was information to read. I was actually a little confused. I thought what I was looking at was, to be honest, I thought I was looking at like the footer. I don't want to embarrass the client, so I'm not going to show it, but let me see if I can. I wonder if I can get just a little bit of the bottom of this to share with you. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it. Because, by the way, they were 100% excited. They knew right off the bat what I was talking about. There was no denial of this. Let me see. I'm going to use Giazzo here. I'm going to grab a quick little doodad of this. And that way I can sort of show you, I'm on another screen. Oh, actually, I could probably do it here. Hold on one second. I just want to show it to you because this is the kind of stuff that we want to make sure that you keep the email super simple. And in doing so, you don't try to like be too designer oriented or do something that looks a little old fashioned. Okay. So I'm going to show you something. And this is a weird snippet. Let me see if I can paste it here. My apologies for delaying you. I just wanted to show you, and I think it would be useful if I do. I'll send it to myself. Okay. I'm on a Macintosh, and I have down below no ability to transfer this over other than through sending it through email. Okay. So here is, after all that ado, my apologies. Here is what this thing looks at. This is what the email looks like, and I apologize. It took me so long to get to this point, but like this is in like a normal Gmail, and there's like an image at the top, and then there's all these like blue letters on blue type, and I really didn't understand until I read it like 3 times what it was that they were trying to do with this. And so it's important that when you're sending these things out that you're very clear. I'm going to show you now, less design, more content. Is the idea of not being too designer oriented because you want more clean white space? Well, there's 3 reasons why. Number 1 is because people have so much email now that even for me, who I don't think I have short attention span theater, I feel overwhelmed at reading emails. I might have 300 to 400 emails a day to filter through. Number 2, I don't understand when something's graphic that it's important to me versus if it's in words. Like if you were sending me a text message, I know the words are what's important and the little emoticons are like the emphasis. And number 3 is that like legitimately, this design is not a good design. It's a little easier to read here, but in my email on a small device, I don't wear readers, but I wear glasses. It was like impossible for me to read. I bet you can't even see like there's little blue dots in here that are items like checklist list items. So the idea is that the design should be oversimplified so that it's extremely clear what you're offering, easy to read, and it's worth mentioning on multiple devices, right? So I may open it up on an iPhone, whereas somebody designed that back in 1995 to be opened up on a big desktop. Thankfully, there's a solution. Inside of Fluent CRM, or if you're using external CRM with this, which you still can, we're going to create the first email. And the first email is going to be something like, we'll call it follow up from first contact. Now, I'm just making these up because there's many steps that you might do that are different, but this is something that's quite common. What we've got here is the editor that's inside of Fluent, and I love this for a lot of reasons. First of all, you can use, I don't use their, but they have their own visual builder. If you prefer theirs, that's fine too. I like using the built-in one that has Gutenberg because, as I've mentioned, actually to many of you in a conversation, this means I can make stuff that's universal with all the other stuff I make in the kit. Remember, I've said to you, one of the things about the kit is that I've got all these great ready-to-use things, right? Like that I've curated out. This is just a sample library, but like the notion is even inside of WordPress, the kit provides you access to the Kadence design tools and so forth. So I can make Gutenberg templates. Number 2, you could choose the basic layout. You can have like a plain full page. You can have a boxed look here. You can have something that has like plain left, classic. You know, if you really prefer to use the classic editor, which is okay. Some people love this. And why would that be important? Well, honest to goodness, you could you could like take text from anywhere if you were still in that mindset. I wouldn't do this, by the way, but you could literally still just, grab something that you like and copy and paste it in. So if you're feeling like a little anxious about your transition, I mean, you literally could just ta-da and make it happen. The neat thing is, whichever template you use, it's still going to end up being sent in HTML5 format. So like here, I'm just using a Gutenberg block. The other part about it is that built into this, I have the capability, and I would recommend you do this as well, of using template tags or shortcodes that allow you to put in the personalization for the user. So if you notice in the right corner here, I will always look for probably the first name of that person, and I will say, hi, paste first name. And that way I am assured that the person who's getting it is getting something that's super clear, really easy to use. And it's like going to look that I sent it like a real person. And I hope you guys recognize that when I send my emails out to you, it's not like tons of graphics. It's a picture of me at the top, maybe to go, oh, that's Spence. And then it's the words. And then if I'm doing these live office hours, I'll typically put a picture of the video on YouTube. So, like, this is like a clue. It's a YouTube event or something, right? Right. Unless left justified is also important too. Here's why. When you're talking about devices, okay, devices could be various sizes, but everything hard left and limited in amount is going to look good even on the smallest of device. If you have a lot of weird centered stuff, it's going to break very differently. And if you have just endless amounts of graphics, good luck, because there's over 400 different email readers, different devices that can translate HTML5. Okay. So keeping it short, sweet, and simple, keeping it clean. Text expander, for instance, that's awesome too. I also use that tool too. So Jeff's talking about, like, if I copied something here, I can use, when I want to paste, I could use Control V. Oh, what was it? Sorry. What is it, Jeff? It's Shift V, I think it is, maybe. And it comes up. It's not doing it for me now because I'm inside of Gutenberg, but it allows me to have a window to choose from so I can see which things to paste. Okay, so now that I've got my basic email, I need to say whether I want to make this a template. And I would highly recommend making it a template, because then you can reuse this for again and again. So what I always do is this. I click these 3 dots, save as a template. And I'm going to call this basic email template. This means that I'm building up a library of really cool stuff here in my kitchen that I can reuse for myself and I can sell to my clients. And here's a Spence zoom in. The zoom in is, you're in the people business. If you, like me, want to make the most money in a world of infinite automation, make your own assets, save them in the freezer, reuse them again and again, because the tools can benefit you even if you have that relationship, because the clients aren't going to have that stuff. They don't need or care to know that it took you 1 second instead of all day to do something, right? I mean, even Gordon Ramsay has an entire industry of making frozen beef Wellingtons that people can buy ready to eat. That doesn't take away in the least that it took him 30 years to become an expert at that, and people will pay him exponentially more money if he came over and did it in person. It just means that you can systematize and productize your own expertise and relationship. And in doing so, you can make more money with less work. And that's, to me, the most important thing about all of the stuff I'm teaching you guys and showing you. So I save everything I do, because later I can use it in this client site or put it into my own packages. Next, we're going to need to probably do a little bit more on the next side of what's the subject. And this should be a compelling subject, but I keep it simple. I usually put the subject in that would be small enough to read on any device and compelling enough, but yet don't make it spammy jammy, right? Don't pretend that you're doing something you're not. So for example, a few words and your name could be useful. I know there's been some conversation lately that the spam engines might be looking if people have a name in it, but it's usually if the name is the same as the recipient, not of you. So I might say something like, welcome to my moving company. and then ... Spence. That by itself is enough to let somebody know like what the thing is that they're about to click on. And I think that's really important in today's world because people are very suspicious. Rightly so, with the amount of spam. You'll notice you can also add UTM parameters if you want. So if you want to track how your emails are performing, or if you want somebody else to get some information passed along, this is available. It's an advanced subject, but what I'll usually do is put at least a campaign name, and that way I can use analytical tools, if those are still useful to you, for knowing like this campaign did better than that campaign, or somebody clicked a link in this thing versus that thing. So I might say, onboarding email, 1. The terms don't matter. The idea is it's for you. And then at that point, you're ready to do 2 things. One is you could send a test email. You'll notice up here in the upper right corner, we provide you an amazing way to test without being connected, so that you can get stuff running right off the bat. This is a mail trap that allows us to see what your email would look like, and what your email would look like. Notice here, disable sending all emails, but it doesn't actually go out. And so we can use that as a way to test even before you've gone live, right? So my onboarding email, and I didn't save this, so forgive me. I might say, onboarding email 1. Okay. So if I want to send a test email, I could send it out to whomever. It's not going to go out. It's going to end up in my mail trap. See, test successfully sent. And the beauty of this is if I open up this tab, I'll be able to see in the mail trap what was sent out. Ta-da, right? And here's the email to Bob Jones. Okay. Looking really much like I had hoped it would look. So it's a great way that our system makes it easy for you to just rock and roll. Notice minute launch means, like, if I did a new one of these, it would be less than a minute to make. Okay, so let's prove it. But I'm going to show you this. If you go to continue the next step, this is where you send stuff out. Notice I only have 1 contact on the list. I can choose which list to send to, and it's pre-configured out of the box for the main list. And I've spoken to many of you guys before. I prefer that you have 1 list and multiple tags to segment people, because see how I can do this? I can choose only send this to people with the tag 1. Well, Bob doesn't have it. Only send it to tag 2. Bob doesn't have that either, or nothing at all. The idea is 1 list with tags is, to me, a very powerful way of doing things and simpler. However, what you can do is have the thought in your head of different lists for different businesses, because there may be a reason that you just want to use this system with different companies or different things, and you literally don't want those people to ever mix back and forth. So if the recipients might be interested in stuff across multiple businesses, use 1 list, and you can essentially use tags to segment. If you think they're completely isolated people, they'll never be interested in the other companies, use multiple lists. And you can use the same thing for excluding. Okay, so in this case, if I just did it like we were talking about, I just said send it to all available subscribers. There's 1 person. I would continue to the next step, which would let me review it. And I could change the subject, make sure it looks good. Everything's good to go. And then I just say schedule or send them right now. Yes, this is what I did this morning. Out the door. And it just literally just, it's really amazing, because there's so many CRMs that charge you a fortune to do what you can do inside of your own site. And if you're using a competent host, like, again, this is using a ZipWP, there's no way it's going to do anything here. But if you're using a competent host that's set up properly, everything is amazing, because it literally just, it saves you not only the time and the money of a different system, but you own and control every part of the process. Okay. So since this is ZipWP and I know it's not really going to go anywhere, let's go on to the next step. Automation. Once I've got this email introducing me to this moving company as the recipient, I'm getting something that looks like, Spence, welcome on board. They should say something about what the next step is. The beauty of that is that we can publish that content in the website, and the link in the email doesn't have to be so wordy. It can be just like, go here to the website where we've already pre-published this stuff. For example, with WP Launch Kit, I have all of the stuff documented in the documentation area. Now, this is a growing body of documentation, but when it comes to these minute launch recipes, I'm going to have it even better. It's going to be like 4 steps for everything. Imagine, like this was a popular topic, making a directory or something, right? Imagine if you had simple information that the people need for their move or for their membership or for, in this case, like building something. You can literally put it in the website and you just take the link to that, and that's what you put into the second email, right? So if we go over here, we go to automations, we could create a new automation that will send the second thing automatically, or it could be built into other places on the website. So we'll say new moving client email 2. Okay. And what's the thing that has to happen? We have to know that they've already gotten some first thing to trigger this. That could be either that they registered, that they were added to the CRM, that they submitted a form, that they clicked a button. It could be on a date certain. You can see here, we've got all these various ways of triggering when something happens, including when they buy stuff, right? So the simplest one would be like when a tag is applied. So if they got that tag from submitting a form. Another one would be when there was a new form submission, right? Like here. So whichever way you do it, let's use the form submission. You can then have a follow-up email that gives them something else to do that's on the website, so that you don't have to give them so much in an email. It could be like, hey, your next step of the move is here. Click to get all the instructions. And then they can, honestly, they can bookmark that page, right? Which is really super awesome too. I have to stand up because my back, but I'm going to zoom out. All right. So here, what is the trigger? We're going to use that form, that user registration and login form, right? And if we want, we can map other data and stuff like that. It doesn't make a difference. This is just a trigger. But the idea is, here we got first name, last name, email, so forth. And what happens after that? Well, we can wait. Maybe we wait a day till we send out the next email. And then, ta-da, watch this. This is the saving part, like saving time. We're going to send them a custom email. Now, notice we can also send a campaign email, which means that we could look at one of the previous campaign emails, like the one I just created, and just use that. Or watch how fast it is when I reuse my own stuff. Remember how I used the 3 dots to create a template? Well, guess what? I can just import that back in to a new email. Ta-da! So the idea is that we can save so many steps, because I can also now create a new email template out of this after I modify it. We'll call this, template 2. But let's first change something. So what I'm going to do here is, like I've been suggesting to you, let's make this super simple. We'll get rid of the old stuff, and we're just going to put in a button. Your next step of the move is this. Click to view. And then here we could put in a button, or we can put in just a link. I like this as a button because it just tends to like make it clear to somebody, and I'll paste that URL in of the page that would have been on our site. Makes it clear to somebody what to expect, right? Like if you see a button and it says, click to view, it's pretty obvious what you're supposed to do. And you can also customize this, right? So the colors and all the rest are really up to you. If you'd like to make it orange or anything, it just couldn't be easier. So now I'm going to save this as a template, and I'll call this, email step 2. Save. All right. So what I've got now is I've got a way to take somebody on board. I've got the ability to send them a clear, concise message that I can test in advance that validates that they become a customer. They don't get confused about it. It's not like hard to read. I then can follow up with an automation that says, do this or that or the other thing. Now, I'm going to follow with one other suggestion, because I don't want to make this more than an hour today. We can do conditional stuff. So how does that work out? Well, Let's say, for example, they go to this moving information page. A couple things we can do as a condition. First of all, if they arrive at a page and we already know that they've come from the CRM, or if they're logged in, that particular page can apply a tag. So here's how it works. Instead of relying only on, let's go over here to pages. Instead of relying only on the fact that they clicked a link, let's actually just use a page itself. So let's pretend that this is our destination page. With this system, I can give them a new tag if they've actually viewed the page. So we'll call this, destination page. And, like, here is your list of stuff for the move, blah, blah, blah. Okay. With WP Fusion, I have the capability of applying a tag. You see here, users must be logged in to view this page. I don't want to do that. I want them to see the page no matter what. But what I can do here is apply a tag if they viewed it. So let's say when they view this and get to this page, whichever way they do it, it gives them a tag. That is one of several ways to keep track of the user's journey in a very simple way, because now I'll know that somebody actually did this, somebody actually viewed it. And from that standpoint, I can use the fact that they have a tag to do more. So in other words, let's review. Somebody signs up, they become registered, they get logged in, they get various tags, they're applied to different lists, they've gotten emails. I know when they've seen things, clicked things, done things, and then I can use that in a circular form to make another new automation, right? Or to carry on, by the way. If I wanted, I could just carry on with this because I could do a thing called a conditional, right? So if I put a conditional in, it's a yes or no, did something happen? The condition is, did the person get a tag, right? So go over here to contact segment tag. Question is, do they have the tag of example 2? And if the answer is yes, then I can go on and say one thing. If the answer is no, I could be like, send them another email. Hey, Spence, why haven't you visited the second step page to read about what's going to happen with your move? Okay. Now, let's wrap this up on the final step, because with time allotment, and there's so many things I can talk about here, these various steps usually amount to this. There's the introduction, there's getting somebody an account registered and logged in. In my case, I needed to give them a couple documents to sign and a deposit. So in this case, it's a piece of cake that we could create a product that is specifically designed to do nothing more and nothing less than to take the $500 deposit. And in doing so, the moving company or the client, who be your client or your business, could take the money and have the client's credit card, this new moving client, on file. So with that, let's go over here to products. And let's just make one from scratch, because that's how simple this is. And then once the person gets that link, they could just pay the money with the credit card. So let's do moving deposit. Okay, we can do, it's, virtual, downloadable. And if we want, we can assign the price, or we can even do this like a generic amount. But let's just say it's $500. Okay, and it's one time. And they're going to be taken to the checkout page, the default checkout page. And when they're done, they're going to go to the default thank you page. Okay, and then we're going to apply, I don't have another example tag, but let's go paid deposit. I can create it dynamically, which is awesome when using Fluent CRM here, because I don't even have to pre-make the tags. So I have all the things I need. Let's just give it jazz it up with a product image, and we can set something in that looks like handing over money, or use your own logos, ta-da. Okay. So I've now made a product in like 15 seconds. What I want to do here on this product is two things. First of all, let's actually clean up the page. I want to show you that you can either send somebody to the page to click and buy it themselves, which is why I'm going to clean this up, or you can give them what's called the Launch Flows direct checkout link. This is the better way of doing it. See this thing here, copy. Let's wait till the page says copy. this link will work anywhere, including in your automated emails. So let's look at the product page itself. Of course, you could send them here and they could click the button, but wouldn't it be more awesome, since we're already doing email automations, if let's go back over here, if we were to put a link into the email automation that just said, like, pay the $500 deposit. Okay, so let's go to Fluent CRM and we go to automations. And whether it's part of the old one or not, we can do it here. Let's just go ahead and deposit payment. All of these things will show up in the customer's account, right? So in this case, tag applied, that they've gone to, let's say, step 2. The tag is example 2. And this is where we're now going to do like we did before. We're going to make a custom email. And the email is going to be, please pay deposit. Okay, and we do the same thing. We can use our template, or I could just say, hi, I'll put the name in a second. Please click here to pay your $500 deposit. Thanks, Spence. Okay, now this is where I could just use an old-fashioned link if I want, because that's what people expect sometimes when you send them a normal email. And then what I'll do is close this up by putting the first name there so that the database knows that it's hi Spence or whomever. And as simple as that, I can save this as a, template, of course. Pay deposit email template. Okay. Now, here's the neat thing about it. Let's go ahead and do the test email bit that we were just talking about a second ago, because this is where the link in the email is super awesome. Having that direct to checkout link, let me grab that again. Having that direct to checkout link means that the person is going to be sent right to the checkout and be able to pay and add their credit card and all that stuff, right? So if I grab this link and let's say they open the email and clicked on it, this is what's going to be their experience. You have to forget I had that sample product in there from before, so I'll just take that out. They're going to see like, ta-da, moving whatever. And by the way, if they were to click it from the email, it'll already know their first and last name, right? So this would be, Susan Smith, let's say, or whomever. SusanandSmith.com. The reason it's pre-filling Spencer and help is because I'm still logged in here as the admin. Now, this allows you out of the box, which is why a launch kit is called Minute Launch Solutions, to in a minute test everything, because we already pre-configured it with the keys for Stripe and everything else, so that, like, notice I'm not having to set up WooCommerce. I'm not having to set up Stripe account. All of the things you need to test and demonstrate are already ready to go. Remember, all I did was under a minute launch this whole site. And I've got like a really powerful marketing automation email thing for business that I could just pour their logo in, their name, their a couple product things, and I'm up and running while I'm yipping and yapping. Okay, now look, the person's in, they've got the dashboard, they've got the order, they can see this particular thing they've got, they can review their previous orders. It's good for them, it's good for you, it's good for everybody. Now let's look on the back end, because the reason it's showing weird is I'm still the admin, but I can now see inside of Fluent CRM, if this person was not the administrator, I would be able to see their orders and all the details and everything else that happened, which is really the most powerful part of all of this. So in this case, as the administrator, none of my actions work. I am going to do one last time though. I'm going to log out and do this like incognito, but it would see or show my purchase history here. Okay, so let's do this together, because I want you to see what would really happen. The reason it doesn't do it for me as the administrator is because obviously we have superpowers here, and we want to be able to test stuff without it, showing to a client. Okay, so let's do it with, I'm going to stop this screen and I'm going to share an incognito window, and then we're going to wrap it up. And if you guys have questions, that's awesome. And I have lots more that I'm going to do on this, because the Minute Launch is really, it's the brand and the recipes for what we've been doing with Launch Kit all the time. Okay, so let's pretend here's the link for the email I just clicked, but now I'm going to be incognito. And Chandra's got a question. I suppose you just have to put it on the company. Correct. And so what happens is you take the Minute Launch recipe with the launch kit, and I've shown this in other videos. It's in our documentation. It takes me 5 seconds to just click on the logo, change the client logo, take one of the sample products, change the name and the price. With the Stripe keys, you go in and you literally just say reconnect to the real Stripe account. It's an open auth button. So you click on it, it goes to the Stripe, it does it. Same thing with the SMTP. You get the API key from SendGrid, we paste it in place. This is all documented, and I've shown it in lots of other videos, but I'm sure you can imagine from what I'm showing you right now, this is what's so awesome. It's that Mad Libs game, right, that we talked about in our phone call of what happens is we've made all of the hard stuff set up, so you just fill in the blanks. So here's the moving deposit. I'm going to do a real person, right? So this is now Susan at smith.com, Susan Smith. I'm going to use the test credit card. So it actually goes through and records as a transaction. And there's, by the way, many things we can do to customize this checkout, but that's not important. What I'm trying to do is show all of the things you need. The DMARC and the SCIF and the SPIF are all done at your SMTP provider. So I've actually done some hour-long webinars and documents on how to do this with SendGrid. And I can show you that we actually have it in our documentation there. So if you go to WP Launch Kit, documentation, and you type SendGrid, you will see all of this cool stuff, how easy it is to just get your gear and rock and roll. Okay, I have a video also in that other one. So absolutely click there. You also do your sender authentication, your domain and otherwise. So you can use any of the 15 to 20 SMTP providers, but SendGrid is just easy and it's cheap and we use it ourselves. But we talked about your situation. You may want to use one of those high volume ones. Same process. Okay, so before I go back to the actual site, if I now, as Susan logged in, look at my account, I will actually see my real orders or whatever it is. Now, in this case, if I look at payment methods and so forth, you can see it saved my payment methods. If I have subscriptions, it would have it. If I want to change my account details, it would have it, and so forth. So I'm running real fast here because I want to wrap up within relatively the hour, but let me show you real quick. Back in the database, everything should have, let's make sure I'm on the right one too. Okay. Let's see if Susan now is properly in our database. If we go to contacts, I'm not 100% sure why I didn't have her in there, but that could be because I'm rushing, or it could be because I think I'm actually using two sites and I'm confusing them because I had too many examples set up. So I think I have the forms on one side. So I'm going to have to beg your indulgence on that to trust me. I had 3 demo sites open all at once, and I think I'm mixing and matching the metaphors because I have one that I'm using for submission and sales and the other one that I'm logged in as the admin. But here's what I promise you guys. As a takeaway from today, number 1, the idea of Minute Launch is that I give you the recipes that work with the kit. The Minute Launch covers all of the things that you need to do for a normal business, and they're available in a la carte fashion or the full banquet. It costs you nothing extra. Because this allows me to further systematize and curate and be at the forefront of latest techniques, I can also share with you guys not only my hands-on expertise, but I can also share with you these pre-made things like what we're talking about today that you can copy or export or reuse because you're using the very same ingredients. And then the last part of this is that where this is all going is that I think from a community standpoint, this is really similar to what happened, I would love to think is scale-wise, but like with Canva. All of us, including myself, use Canva for design and almost everything now, video and animations and God knows what. There's an entire industry around making stuff, templates, accessories for Canva. I've seen this with Google Docs and Excel and with Notion templates. What I feel is necessary in WordPress, along with those others who are making stuff in WordPress, is for us to offer WordPress as a service that has a sort of curated feel to it so that everybody in the community can start working sideways. There's a couple ideas I want to point out, and I promise I'll wrap it up. Number one, many of you have succeeded and launched your own businesses and have asked me, Spence, aren't there people who can, for a reasonable price, do design work for me? Aren't there people who can do the marketing automation part for me? Aren't there people who can essentially do some of the sales and transactional stuff for myself or my clients? By having an ecosystem of everybody using similar stuff, there is the ability for us to have the sideways transactional and service, not just from the top down. Number two is I want to share the revenue with everybody in this. So there've been questions about like, well, Spence, if the plugins were made by X and Y and Z and you're distributing them and so forth, isn't that unfair? It's not, because this is open source software. The code, even the code that I create and otherwise sell as part of my thing, the code is free. What everybody is supposed to be selling is the service and the support. The problem is that when everybody's randomly selling stuff in a flea market as parts, there's no way of knowing how it's going to be used. So in order to alleviate that, even if I incorporate software from one of our vendor partners and so forth, or themes or whatever it may be, those parties and you can share in the revenue. So I'm offering up to 50% revenue share for anybody who uses this for themselves and their clients on the basic launch kit and the accessories. The idea being that the more the merrier. If you run a gas station and I have these really cool pizza ovens, you can put the pizza ovens in your gas station, sell thousands of dollars a day of ready to go pizzas. You're just buying essentially the parts from me, and we're both making equivalent value revenue. And then finally, there's the customization and the hands-on stuff. I really love working with people, talking with people, and the human aspect of it. So for me, it's a better idea if I'm able to do the things that I show you over here at WP Launchify. My business is really nothing more or nothing less than a good old-fashioned agency. But the difference is I used to spend all my clients' time and money on fixing Frankensteins. Now with LaunchKit, I can just offer my services a la carte. It's get the kit, everything you need in unlimited email for myself and hopefully my team. But really, if you want Spence or my expertise, and I really love this, I have a group of people who are constantly on this. You can always get me for an hour for $300. You can get me for a week for $1,250. You get me 2 weeks for 2.5. You get me for the month for $5,000. And I can do that for a smaller set of people, but for those people who need it, it's a great way to kind of like, I've got an uncle who's a lawyer and he's available when I need him and I'm going to pay for the time, but otherwise I can always call him anytime I want. That's the human relationship part that I think is really the center of what those of us Gen X and above understand as the way to do business. So I hope this has come across as at least useful. I do apologize, but I have done this for 20 years that I work without a net live. So I just generated some stuff like literally with no preparation, and some of it worked perfectly. Some of it I obviously got myself mixed up, but I give you 100% guarantee that everything about this has been well tested. It's been working now for hundreds and hundreds of subscribers and thousands upon thousands of previous subscribers. The version 2, I really want to have into the repository by this weekend. If not, you'll at least have the download from my site. The repository usually takes my uploads immediately, but in case there's any extra problem there. Also, if you've been on the fence, I want you to inquire about it, because if you have anybody that you believe is interested in any of these solutions, it's a 50% revenue share. So like I'm talking recurring revenue share. Even if you are a person who's an implementer and has a client, the cost for your client is hosted $97. It's $60 to add on extra sites. And the other products and things that I'm offering there are a really valuable way to get like what I've just shown you I can give you, put your name on it, mark it up and sell it, because that's the kind of stuff that I've been doing for years and had really tons of happy clients and customers. Thank you everybody who showed up for today. Great questions. I'm always available at help@wplaunchify.com. I may or may not be doing a show with Chris later today at 3 o'clock Central Time. He is, I think traveling perhaps. If he's not, we'll do another show today. Otherwise, I will be continuing to make my related video and keep you guys up to date on the newsletter. Until then, thanks, and I'll see you on the next video.